This is the last kind of conversation that I thought we would have about the newest Montreal Canadiens defenseman Noah Dobson. Because, hey, we all know that heading into the 2025 summer, there was a lot of debate as to what this guy's future would look like. Would he re-sign with the Islanders? Were they going to keep him around? Did he want to sign with the Islanders? Were they going to have enough money to do that, or would they have to trade him away, and which teams would be interested? Eventually, it got to a point where Noah Dobson was going to get traded, and we as fans, we all knew that that was going to happen. And inevitably, it was like, okay, what team is going to get this guy, and what team's going to sign him? At the end of the day, it boiled down to two teams. The winning team, the Montreal Canadiens, which inevitably got him to ink a $9.5 million 8-year extension, and the other team that was involved was Columbus. And it was reported that the Blue Jackets were willing to pay Dobson a lot more than $9.5 million a year, and Dobson would have been okay with getting that amount of money in Columbus. But ultimately, we know that the trade didn't go through. Columbus did not get Noah Dobson, Montreal did. A first, and Emil Heineman was enough to get it done. Dobson went from potentially playing with Zach Werenski to playing with Caden Gooley or Lane Hudson, which is not that bad of a downgrade, but still. The opportunity was there for CBJ to get their paws on this number 1, number 2 defenseman. 39 points in 71 games the most recent year, yada yada yada. We all know that this probably is not going to be the point production future for him per season. If he gets back up to 70 points a year, that's pretty good. Maybe he reasonably maxes out at like 60 or something because he's not going to get power play one time, but still. Noah Dobson, great defenseman. He's fantastic. He's making $9.5 million a year for a reason. But the reason we are making this video is because of not anything that has to do with the Canadiens, but in fact, what has to do with the Columbus Blue Jackets. I'll turn your attention over to here, an article published by Mark Shig on August 18th, 2025, on thehockeywriters.com. It's a Q&A with Blue Jackets GM Don Waddell, and within this Q&A, there's a really big piece of info that Waddell puts in there that actually gives us some insight as to what went down in those Noah Dobson trade talks and why, ultimately, the Blue Jackets failed to get this guy. Before we dive into what Don Waddell said, let's go over to a tweet made by NHL Watcher from earlier in the summer. I have this bookmarked because I used it for a video, surprise, surprise. But all the way back after the draft and before free agency, Elliot Friedman's 32 Thoughts podcast went out there and said this: Dobson wanted to go to Montreal. Columbus is rumored to have offered a better package to the Islanders, and Friedman also believes that Dmitri Voronkov was in the deal. They were also going to give Dobson a higher AAV. So this is an angle that we did talk about, like, hey, CBJ, they had their trade package, Voronkov was in it, maybe the Islanders would have preferred Voronkov over Emil Heineman, but they still got 2 first-round picks, so it's fine. And Dobson also got less money by going to Montreal versus Columbus, but he actually did want to go to Montreal, so it's all good. Dmitri Voronkov, by the way, very good NHL player. I think he's a bit better than Emil Heineman is, especially since Voronkov, to my knowledge, hasn't gotten hit by a car. But Voronkov had 47 points in 73 games the most recent season. Okay, I apologize. That was really mean. Sorry, Emil Heineman, it wasn't your fault that you got hit by a car. But still, Dmitri Voronkov was reported by Friedman to have been in Columbus's Noah Dobson trade package. Well, let's go over to what Don Waddell spoke about, because he revealed the truth, according to this article. This interview, part 2, starts out by talking about Adam Fantilli, negotiations, extension talk, etc., etc., etc. Boone Jenner, they talk to Eric and Branson, really hot, scorching stuff over here. But then you scroll down into the Chinakhov, Voronkov, and other moves part of the article, and you get into the Voronkov conversation. They talk about Chinikov, they talk about training camp, they talk about this, that, and the other. Let's go out there and read what the Hockey Writers asks Waddell. Another player that reportedly had potentially been available from Columbus was Dmitri Voronkov. He has a contract now and is a huge part of the team moving forward. I think you guys expect big things from him. Waddell replies, yeah, if you look at his first half of the year versus his second half, the first half is outstanding, and he slowed down in the second half of the year. We address that with him, and hopefully he comes prepared, not just physically, but mentally for the season. I will say, his name came up because it was obviously for the defenseman from the island, and Voronkov's name came up, and we always said no. So how people reported and all that, I think if I were to have put him in the deal, I would have gotten the player Noah Dobson. But we weren't willing to put him in the deal. So, Don Waddell straight up goes out there and refutes what Elliot Friedman said on 32 Thoughts, the podcast. Friedman said, yeah, CBJ had Voronkov in this trade package, but the Islanders traded with Montreal instead. Waddell, on the other hand, is saying, nope, we did not have Dmitri Voronkov in that trade package. If we did, we probably would have gotten Noah Dobson, but we didn't want to put Voronkov in there. Now, I don't know if that is just Waddell saving face for the reputation and optics of his client. It doesn't seem to be a good idea to have a guy on your team that is so openly been in trade talks, right? Like, you don't want Don Waddell to be walking around there and fans to be like, hey, you guys wanted to trade Voronkov, right? You guys were thinking about moving him away for the defenseman, right? So maybe this is saving face. Maybe Waddell's like, yeah, no, we didn't have him in the trade. Nah, we wanted to keep him. We didn't make that trade for Dobson because we didn't want to trade away Voronkov. That's how important Voronkov is to us. We chose keeping him over grabbing that Noah Dobson, even though Voronkov had a bad second half of the year. And yeah, I will say that that was the case here. I had Voronkov on 8 of my 8 fantasy teams this year throughout the season, and I had to drop him a bunch because he was not doing all too well in the second half. Yeah, it was kind of inconsistent there, but he was really good at the beginning. Him, Sean Monahan, and Kirill Marchenko were all studs. But with this in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Don Waddell's response to the Noah Dobson trade, supposedly revealing the truth and how things went down, going directly against Elliot Friedman's report that Columbus had Voronkov in the deal? The Blue Jackets representative, GM, is saying, no, we did not. If we did have him in the deal, we probably would have gotten Dobson, but we didn't, and that's why he went over to Montreal. How do you feel upon learning this information? Where do you think Noah Dobson's career is going to go from here? Also, what are your thoughts on Dmitri Voronkov? He signed on till the end of 2027, making $4.175 million a year. He had himself a very strong 24-25, all things considered. If he's able to replicate the same success that he had at the beginning of the year throughout the course of the entire 25-26, this guy, at 24 years old, can be a very, very good player. We'll see, though, whether or not it was worth it for CBJ to hold on to him and not get Dobson. But thoughts in the comment section either way. The article, the interview with Waddell will be linked in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.